Good evening, everyone. I'm Yogini Daivadkar. Now, I would like to welcome Jim Sanford, who is the Mid-Atlantic Chair, and he will be taking all the questions and presenting the Joel's presentation. And Joel will be talking about all the questions he has regarding all the awards. Thank you. Jim, you want to share your presentation?
Welcome, everybody. It's been a pleasure to work with Joel for all these months. And I know people are looking forward to hearing his final thoughts on the awards that he's determined. And we'll just spend another hour with Joel, and I'm really looking forward to it. So I'm not going to spend any time on introductions. We're going to go through all 21 of the award winners, and Joel will make brief comments, and I'll try to keep up with questions that may pertain to the ones that are up, and we'll just do the best we can here, and we can all do the math on 21 paintings in about an hour. So that's the pace that we're going to try to go at. So hopefully I can push the button and bring up the first one. This is Grand Canyon Morning by Sharon B. Fuller, which won an honorable mention. Joel, take it away.
Okay, thank you, Jim. Just first of all, it was my great honor to and pleasure to serve as the juror this year. And Jim and I had talked a little bit about the process, and I know last year you had started a BWS Creativity Award, and you added two this year that were themed. And I'm kind of the opinion I don't mind having a theme, the guidance to give a couple paintings that have special significance. So to answer your question, Jim, I guess continue to do that, because as a juror and even as a person on the show, I didn't mind a special category to honor. Sometimes that honor a person or their own work and stuff in a style for a particular award. So I thought it was a good idea. And my congratulations go out to Jim and everybody else that worked on that organized the show. You did a great job, and to every artist who submitted paintings, and to all the award winners for their exceptional accomplishments. A little word before I start going through the paintings about what I especially look for when I judge a show. I often get asked that, a lot of people are, and I hear other artists, talk about how they judge a particular show. First and foremost, with me as a realist painter, I look for light and atmosphere. Does the painting capture a specific light effect? Does it have a time of day, a time of season? How does the artist create how does the light affect the mood of the painting? And which brings me to another point, is the mood and the emotional impact of the work. Sometimes I really look at a painting and it really resonates with me. And then and then I go through the other things that a lot of judges might put ahead of what I consider like a light effect and mood. Design, how well is it drawn? How well do they handle the watercolor media, brushwork, all those good things that go through that. And then when it comes to we all want a balanced show and not only have representational art, but you want perhaps abstracts. I look for in those works. I look for maybe not necessarily mood, but how well the shapes, the design, movement through the picture. So I look for those things as well. So I just don't randomly just say, oh, I like that and pick it. I have some things behind my opinions about what I try to do in each when I consider each painting for an award. Jim, can we go to the first slide, the Grand Canyon? Okay. I've been here several times to the Grand Canyon, and boy, does it overwhelm. It's really overwhelming to look at. And I've never painted it. I've been there a few times. It's just I get there and I'm just so overwhelmed by the beauty of the spot. And this artist did a really nice job capturing uh, all the colors that you see. It's at all times of day, how it changes, and I really enjoyed this artist's use of uh, uh, color variation in the shadow and even in the light. It's really nicely done. The palette has a good use of scale and distance in the work. Those mountains in the distance really feels they go back and in comparison to the tree in the foreground. So I also like the some of the work in the rock ledges and stuff. They look really nicely modeled and formed. Next one, Jim. Uh, this, although I'm not generally drawn to special techniques or gimmicks, and it looks like, and I'm not saying that I really enjoyed the background. I don't know how the artist did all those modeling there. What I'm talking about, sometimes people put in, sprinkle some salt to get that kind of a look, or they use some other techniques to suggest all that texture in the background. But I really enjoyed how that person did that, and it's nicely contrasted with the cricket in the foreground and all that. There's a special feature on our phones today, portrait mode, to make the backgrounds look blurred out, and so your eyes go to the foreground. I thought that the artist did that really well with the background's kind of abstract but it looks like an environment in nature where this cricket might be seen. Next one, Jim. Are there any questions so far, Jim? Or
I'm not seeing any yet.
okay. If anybody has a question along the way, feel free to let me know and I'll try to address it. This painting really captures the quiet mood of a winter day. I really like the gray palette. Now, some of you might know I'm very partial to a gray day picture, and I've seen effects like this, and this is what I'm talking about as far as moods go. I mean, I really can relate to this kind of snowy. It just looks like a gray, cold, snowy day. So it really does convey a really, really nice mood. Um, and these kinds of scenes really do portray a very peaceful, contemplative feelings, and I particularly enjoyed how this artist did that. And there's nice handling in the gray trees too. They look natural. The trees there's enough detail done in the bushes and stuff to be convincing, but not overly worked. And I really appreciate that. I also like how the artist handled some of the snow in the foreground. It looks like there's multiple planes, and there's a little subtlety in the color in the snow that's just spot on. Really nicely done.
And I apologize, I left an L off of San Diego's name. So
My wife is a collector of sea glass, so I'm very familiar with the beauty of these little treasures. They're displayed all around our home. So when we go to the beach, I often sometimes I have better luck finding the sea glass than she does. But I really do love the beauty of the colors, and I love how this piece is kind of backlit. And I couldn't quite when I was looking at it, I couldn't quite decide whether I liked the little backlight on the unlit candle more than I did the colors in the mason jar. I thought they were really, my eyes just kept on going back uh, to that top of the candle, which is nicely handled. And I don't think you can appreciate it much on the slide as you do in person, but that really struck me about this particular work. I've seen candles do that. There's a nice little glow right to the top part of the candle. So my eyes kind of went back and forth between between the candle tip and the colors in the mason jars, which are really nicely done. Um, any questions on that, Jim? Or are we good?
Nothing specific. I do see some questions floating in, so maybe the chat thing is fixed. And I also see that the L wound up in the award name, so I didn't lose an L, I just misplaced it.
Yeah. You know, when I saw this boy, I can definitely relate to this title and to this scene. Um, and again, I like the objects on the counter. The the salt shaker, the sugar jar, and the how the artist handled the hoodie on the figure. Really nicely done. I think there's a nice the nice work in the wrinkles. They look loose enough, but they also feel very solid, and the ellipses look correct in some of the folds. So there's a nice solidity to the figure's body, and the textures and the colors in the face and hand were really nicely done. The flesh tones are very convincing. But again, and I like that. You know, when I don't get bored, but my eyes just kind of kept on going back from the objects on the table and back to the figure, back into the sweatshirt and around and that's good movement. You know, all paintings. You know, when we take it a painting, our eyes just go to one spot and then they don't move. But this one had good tension. You know, moving my eyes around it a lot. Um, like I said before, I could really relate to the title and to the subject as well. Next one, Jim. You know, before I went into fine art, I graduated from art school and I was an illustration major. And one of the very first assignments that I had was for a magazine called Cuisine Magazine, and it was a painting of New Jersey tomatoes. And it kind of that job for me kind of led to more food work, and it seemed that the for quite a few years in my illustration career, that's all I was doing were pictures of food for food magazines and stuff. So um, uh, this painting kind of struck me on that level too. I really like the handling of the beets. There's nice texture in the leaves and the artichokes in the back are really well done. Um, and I even like the brushwork in the beets themselves and how they really make those beets feel rounded and you know and full of volume. So this one really nice solid painting. Again, on a subject that was kind of near and dear to my heart. Okay, Jim. Next one. Okay. I really love the flower in this piece, and I was especially taken in by the little reflected yellow in the flower. Um, it, the shadow's mostly cool with those violets in there, and there's this little in the wash. The person got a little glow from the light hitting the center of the flower and reflecting those warm violets in the middle. Um, really nicely done, and I really enjoyed all the work that the artist did in the leaves and stuff. They feel very the textures throughout this whole painting were really well done. The flower really felt like it had uh, that kind of delicacy, and yet the leaves felt that um, you know. And I've seen plants like that really wrinkly uh, kind of leaf. Nicely done overall. Good placement of the flower. My eyes move around it really well. Um, good effort. Really nicely done. This is a really excellent depiction of a classic gray Scottish day. And the atmosphere that the artist caught was really true to the location in sky. Uh, what especially caught my eye was the reflection in the cat's paw breeze on the water. How that it disturbs the the cat's paws. Uh, the saying goes, it looks like as if the cat touched the water, and it caused a little disturbance. So I like how the artist broke up the reflection in the water. My eyes kind of went there immediately. But I also like the uh, all the work in the foreground, and that boggy stuff, and the seaweed. Um, I can't tell you how many times I've seen and painted seaweed like that through Maine and in Scotland, and I'm never quite satisfied with the colors I come up with for that yellowish, orangey kind of seaweed. But I thought the artist did um, a pretty good job with that seaweed color. But nice landscape. Um, I guess it's the slide. The only thing that bothers me about it, I don't recall. Um, it looks like the horizon's a little off, crooked to the left, but I don't recall that when I saw it in person. So it might just be the image, but it feels as though it should be tilted down on the right a little bit. But the greens are very nice. They feel like they go back. I like the gentle hills in the distance. Really, really nicely done. Um, the building in the back looks nicely rendered, and the boats in it. Just an overall nice mood for a gray day. Um, I really enjoyed this painting as a person who's painted in Scotland and as a landscape painter. Really well done.
Joel,
Next.
there were a couple of paintings in the exhibition that kind of uh, that had the same kinds of vivid greens in them.
Yeah.
And when I saw them, I think of your paintings and
Mhm.
some of the stuff that you did in the demonstration. Are you partial to these sorts of greens?
Uh, yeah. I know how. One of the points I addressed in the workshop too is artists struggle with green. Part of it when you get the green out of the tube, it's just too metallic looking. So when I see an artist that they're trying to get some depth in their mixtures, and trying to produce a natural vegetable green, I know how difficult it is, to get it right. And yeah, so whenever I see, I look at landscape work and the greens in there on that level too. How natural does it look, or what was the artist's process to come up with that, um, spatial quality that you can get when you mix it right. And I think this, and there's also in this particular painting, there's some nice cool planes on the look at the foreground. You can see some of the top planes on the grass that catches some of the gray sky in there, and that's well done. And a lot of people miss that when they do a scene uh, like this. They forget to put those sky planes even on the grass. So yeah, I'm partial to a good green painting.
Mhm. Thank you. Okay. And by the way, chat seems to be working now. So
Good. This is a nicely rendered portrayal of a quiet, peaceful moment, and again, talking about mood and stuff. This picture really conveys a nice mood throughout it. I love the featured sycamore in this painting. I love sycamores on a gray winter day. That white bark that you see contrasted with the the darker colors through the landscape and stuff. Um, the colors in the foreground too, with uh, the snowy the foreground. Your eyes kind of are led back to that tree, which is a good thing. In the blurred bushes in the front kind of direct your eye back, which I thought was kind of nice. Um, I, if you were on my workshop and I talked about painting those sticks, I often don't like to see 10,000 sticks painted, but I think the artist hit the right tone on that without myself I would use a dry brush technique and not have to paint 10,000 sticks, but I think the artist did enough in the sycamore and the other trees in the background to not make it look overdrawn or overworked, which can sometimes happen. But just a nice, quiet, moody, nice sky in it as well. Painting, really, really nicely done. There's a good feeling of depth of all the blue in the background trees. So there's a good spatial quality in the work as well. Next one, Jim. Um, when you look at the broken planes in the face, and how the artist and their technique at a distance they really work. And a lot of times you see people do a portrait that just overuse of one monochromatic color, but they got nice green tones and the red tones. It really makes the flesh in both the face and the hand look very real and fleshy. There's those green tones around the eye, around the nose, around the mouth, spot on. I thought that was really, really well done, and I also appreciated the attention to detail the artist put in the blanket. It the rendering of the quilt makes it feel soft and comforting, just like the title implies, and it perfectly complements the tenderness of the subject. So I thought that is really well done. I like the broken planes in the modeling on both the hand and the face with those washes in there. And the hair too. You can look at the hair. There's even they weren't afraid to put a little green into the hair, which I think makes blonde or brown hair look good. Or you get those greens count as cool tones. So although the hair is over predominantly warm, there's these little pockets of cool tones in there. Again, making it look very real and colorful. Nicely done. Next one, Jim.
Joel, a question which may pertain to the previous painting, but in terms of the foreground, out of focus, as well as the background, do you like it when a painting emulates a photo quality like depth of field?
I, there's a painting by Velasquez, this great Spanish court painter, right? And it's Las Mañanas. And I was told, or it's my understanding that you can see in the background it's the Spanish royal court. So there's a couple ladies in waiting, and there are other characters from the royal Spanish court. And in the background, in a little tiny uh, doorway, you could see the king and the queen, and they're blurred and out of focus. And I have never seen the painting. I've seen it in books, obviously. And from my understanding, it was the first time in the history of art that when we look at something in reality, everything's in clear focus. But if I'm staring at, I'm looking at a cup full of pencils on my desk right now. And as I look at that, all the pencils and all the pens in the cup are all in sharp focus, but my telephone and my lamp are all blurred. But I move my eyes, and now the lamp is like totally in focus, and the cup is blurred. So that's how we envision it. And in Velasquez's painting, he was the first artist in the history of art to everything prior to that painting was everything was in sharp focus, no matter where you looked, no matter where it was. He was the first artist to kind of get that. That's how we perceive the world. And getting back to that last painting, that gives your paintings that spatial quality, that depth of field, right? There it is, right? So the background is more blurred and the foreground grass is blurred. So your eyes kind of are immediately directed. And now we have that photo feature right on our phones, portrait, right? So I know some of you I saw as the tiles came up, some had in their backgrounds, it was all blurred and they were sharp focus, and does give the painting a nice spatial quality. And as a landscape painter, I was always taught if you want to make something look distant, blur it out a little bit, and keep what you want people to look at in sharper focus. So it's not a recent convention. It's been around in painting, um, for quite a long time. And I thought this painting did a nice job of that. Uh, they're getting a nice spatial quality throughout the work. Okay.
Thank you.
I love street scenes. When I'm looking at it here and I saw it in person, I thought that the image was bad. There was one thing I love this picture a lot. I just wish there was a little more. The one criticism I had on it, I just wish there was something in the foreground a little darker to set the whole scene up. But that said, just a nice picture that I've seen days like that where it's kind of the palette's kind of muted and quiet and speaking of blurring stuff out, and the use of value, there is really a spatial quality to this picture as well. I like the detail in the building. It doesn't look like an architectural rendering, which is kind of important to me. It looks like an artist painted it. It's not uh, I always tell people, like when you're painting the clapboards on a white house, for instance, if you use a ruler and you get all the lines just right except for one, they all look out of whack. But if you make them all slightly skewed and look like they're hand painted, it looks good, and that has that quality in here. It's not overly rendered. It looks like an artist painted it, not a render, and I appreciate that, and I like that a lot. As I was when I saw it in person, I was really enjoying all the work that they had done in the church, and even in the tree off to the right. Just not every stick was drawn. Some of it are just a plain old wash going back there. Just a nicely executed cityscape. Next one, Jim. We go from that subtle painting to this bold, colorful painting. And I really, that really drew my eye, and it was all the nice, colorful washes in the flour. I also like the patterning on the tablecloth, and that adds a lot of visual interest into the painting. And they got the patterning in the background really makes it feel like it's on a table. They also like the little abstract patterns that the glass bowl makes as it casts a shadow on the table. I think that was really spot on. But I really enjoyed all the modeling in all the flowers. That's a hard thing to do, and it just the right amount of detail without looking too overworked. It's a nice study of a bowl. I don't know what I enjoyed more, the bowl or the flowers. It was that kind of a nice, interesting painting. So really well done. Next one, Jim. The artist really caught a nice sunny day here, and I love the colors in the sky. Really nicely done. The bush in the front, all those multiple planes in the light. I'm jealous. I thought it was really nicely rendered, and yet some of the distant trees, the bushes in the front with all those spiky fronds coming out, just the right amount of work. And then you look into the background, and it's not overworked back there, so they're getting nice spatial quality in that. Good shapes through the grassy field. Good shapes through the vegetation. The greens look good. and nice shapes in the clouds. Really feels like it goes back and the sky continues beyond the landscape. Um, and I recall there's pretty good scale to the paint. I think there's a pretty big painting too, which I also liked. But just good shapes and good drawing and good rendering, good modeling through all the landscape. Really nicely done.
Joel, does the title of a painting, is that important to you?
I'm the I'm the worst title painter in the world. Um, but yeah, does it matter to me when I see it when I judge a show? Sometimes you don't really get to see the title, and I prefer it that way. I just like to judge it on its own merit. But I guess a lot of people sometimes the whole title um, is the point to understanding that. That's a good question. My wife brings some of my paintings to her office, and um, she works in a school, so there's another teacher that shares her office, and her roommate had looked at it, and she had like the perfect title for it, and then they look at the back of the painting where I had the title on it, and it was you know uh, born in a winter day, some stupid title like that, and they were shocked. They were both shocked that the title was not as clever as she had come up with. But you know, um, I as I was looking at the slideshow, um, I didn't see I hadn't seen all the titles when I was judging it, and I do appreciate a good title, but is it important? I don't really know. Again, I'm judging the work solely on its visual impact, less so on the title.
Well, and I do recall that you spent a lot of time judging the awards. And as you described it to me, you said that the paintings in the physical paintings look different from what you had seen
Yeah.
on the computer screen. And you sort of started from scratch
Yeah.
and spent a long time walking around looking at the paintings. And in that setting, you wouldn't have seen the painting titles unless you looked at the back of the painting, which I don't believe you did.
No. I don't like to do. We had this. Jim and I had this discussion too, when I was when I judged shows for New Jersey Watercolor in Ridgewood. I was involved heavily in where I teach in Ridgewood, New Jersey, at the Ridgewood Art Institute. We have a regional show there, and then New Jersey Watercolor had a statewide show for New Jersey, and when I was judge, I wanted to cover up the artist's name on even on the painting, just so that the artist, the judge, the juror wouldn't see who the artist was, so that they would not, give an award to somebody they knew, or and there was a lot of feedback both ways on the positives and negatives of that. But I thought that made the juror, you know, stop looking for a friend, or or someone they felt compelled to give the award to, and really judge the work on its own merit, and uh, uh, yeah, I I kind of you kind of get what I mean, right, Jim? Um,
Yeah, and just to be clear, I mean, you never, aside from signatures on the paintings, you never
no,
saw anything that associated with people. Maybe there are folks that you recognize and so on, but
and not even the title, so I wasn't even aware of what the title was. So, but I did get a chuckle out of a few, like the one about the coffee. I thought that was a pretty clever title when I saw it. And after seeing the title, on a few of the paintings, I kind of got it. And the other thing about judging these shows too from the internet is they look so different on the computer screen, and then there's sometimes some paintings that look so good on the screen, and then you see them in person, and you're like, uh, and then the opposite happens. You kind of zip by one painting, don't give it a second thought, and then you see it in person, whether it's the scale of the work, how big it is, or it's just a different experience. And like Jim said, you know, seeing it in person made me stop and it felt like I was judging the show all over again. Which is, but you get it. How else can you handle a show like that? You can't really. It's difficult to have all the paintings juried in person. This is the only way to, and especially on a national show or a regional show, it covers a big area. Um, it's a little harder to do.
Yeah.
Oh, let's see. Where are my notes here? When I first saw this, I thought it was almost abstract. The lines and the forms of the machinery were nicely composed, and uh, the ironwork and the painting on the train itself really moves your eye around the picture, and that's what compelled me about it most. You're taking one thing and then you're kind of led to another spot. It had good movement. When you hear that term, good movement, when people describe a painting, um, you wonder what they're talking about. But I've always felt that when you talk about a painting have good movement, it's not the painting. Obviously, it's not the painting that moves, right? It's your eyes. It's the viewer's eyes as they go through the composition. And uh, when you see this painting, your eyes kind of flow here. They move over to another area. They don't get bored, and there's just lots of things that you can arrive at. And I thought that uh, that was really nicely done throughout the picture. Um, you're looking at some areas, it looks like something, and it quite doesn't look like something. They're adding to the mystery of it. I thought that was really kind of cool and nicely worked. Next painting, Jim.
Yeah, I'm going to mention too that we're in the Historic Figure Awards section. The last one was John McGrath, who you probably don't know who that is because he's specific to the Baltimore. But I remember asking you on the on this one, this was the uh, excuse me, this was Gordon Grant. I said, was the name Gordon Grant in the award? Did that affect you giving it to a scene with boats? And I think you said, yeah, it may have.
Yep, I love Gordon Grant's work. He was in case you don't know who he was a marine painter up in Gloucester, in Rockport, Massachusetts, up there. Did a lot of working boats, like the old schooners and stuff. Really terrific watercolor artist. Awesome. Um, and yeah, that definitely influenced. I was happy to be able to give, um, uh, and I'm partial to boats, painting boats, and I was kind of happy that it worked out that we were able to award this painting, this artist, a painting that calls into remembrance Gordon Grant, Gordon Grant, right?
Yes.
Nice work in uh, uh, the edge of the boat. A lot of people miss that. There's the edge of the boat has that nice curve in it, um, and all the boats in the back. If you don't get that curve in there, and the span between the edge of the boat and the water line is real nice and tight, and it makes those boats look really seaworthy. So this artist really knows how to draw a boat, and I appreciate that because it's easy to miss some of the intricacies of the drawing, but the artist did a nice job of it. And I like the texture in the water. My only, if I had to complain about it, just wish the foreground water was a little darker to make the glow on that featured boat a little brighter. But that said, it's just really nicely done, nicely drawn, and a subject that's really near and dear to my heart. And good work on there's uh, the reflections look very convincing, and the texture on the water looks really nicely done. Really nicely painted.
Joel, a general question. The role of the narrative of a painting, how does that fit into your role as juror?
Um, uh, if it's uh, yeah, I like a good a good story behind the painting, or something that I can make up or think about is awfully nice. But it doesn't, you know, again, I'm a landscape painter. I'm a realist. Um, I just like a, a beautiful scene. It's probably a little less important than it might be to other artists, having a you know being allegorical is less of an importance to me than it might be just a painting that appreciates the beauty of something. That's my input. That's my impetus when I work. I like beauty, and and I like to paint things that are beautiful. Um, I guess uh, the narrative in a painting is a little less important to me, but I can appreciate it too.
Okay.
And I guess this is one of the awards, Jim. Is this correct? That was new to this year, right?
Yes, this is one of the three themed awards. All the others are not necessarily, the name of the award doesn't have to have anything to do with the selection. But this and two others, we did put these themes in there, and it's worked. It worked well last year. We tried one, and this year we tried three. Um, and so, and I'll mention that we don't. There's no other paragraph here. The name use of a timely contemporary theme was the only thing we wrote down.
Yep.
And we didn't give a treatise on what we thought that meant. That was left up to you.
Yep. Well, I especially enjoyed the harmony of the color and the painting, and I also like the shapes. When I read, without having read the title, my eyes kept, after reading the title, my eyes kept on seeing stuff, which I enjoy that about abstract art. The viewer really gets to participate more. Um, but I love the movement that my eyes just keep wandering around and enjoying the various shapes, that even in the black line work throughout. Um, Nice sense of mystery, but just really cool use of color and design. I thought this was a, a really nice abstract piece.
Do you have any particular theories when it comes to what makes a good abstract painting?
Again, shape, color, more about design. Um, how your eye moves through it. I like I a lot of work. I like history in it. Who is this artist drawing inspiration from? I like a connection to perhaps uh, another painter. So those are all the criteria that goes to. For me, when I look at an abstract work, it's more about the design, use of color, and shape. Um, and that's the criteria. How well balanced is it? Do I get bored with it, or does it continually entertain and keep me focused on it? And I think this painting does that. Um, I'm not. Whenever I look at it, I see something else, which is another thing that I enjoy about when I look at a work that's more abstract.
Okay. A general question. What subjects do you prefer to judge and paint? And I'm going to add to the two, the judging and the painting part, do they relate to each other?
What what subjects do I enjoy to
What
judge?
subjects do you prefer to judge and paint?
Well, more impressionistic, realistic paintings, landscape in particular. I do like, I like portrait work too. If you're looking for me from a clue to what to enter in a show, I heard it once said that if you want to immediately get rejected, put a floral in, right? And it the thought being that landscapes and portraits do better in a in a lot of shows, and there might be some truth to that. Um, but yeah, me, it's because it's my training, and it's because what I prefer. I do prefer to do I'm more comfortable uh, with realism and landscape art more than and I, and I like a good portrait too, so I can look at that as well. Um, what was another part of your question, Jim?
Well, I added the part about, you can say what you prefer to judge, you could say what you prefer to paint. The two
Oh,
have any influence over each
oh,
other.
yeah. I'm these days. I'm really opinionated about what I like. What I like to paint, and even the artwork that I really enjoyed when I go to a museum and stuff. And it's that the American Impressionists, some of the French Impressionists, is my period of time that I really enjoy looking at, and and paint and the manner of how I paint is kind of falls into that era as well. Plein air pictures too. I like a lot in shows as well. Okay, the next one. Okay. And then I really love the washes in this work, and talking about that balance and shape. And again, I could look at those. This painting reminded me a lot. After a day of painting, I have these palettes here in my studio. I use those butcher tray. They're a white enamel tray. I even have a table here that's just a white enamel top, and I paint on that. And at the end of the day, this painting reminded me of all the stains that the colors make on my table. And I often wish I could just peel up that some of the colors off my table and paste it onto my paper. And this painting reminded me of that. And uh, I really liked how the I don't know how the artist did it, but some of those the way the washes dried, I think it looked really cool. And again, they're just organized in an intriguing way that I don't get bored with, looking at. Um, uh, so again, there's nice movement, a nice use of color, nice balance throughout the work. Really well done.
Okay. And just, there's a comment I think we've answered, but
Sure.
was there a list of themes that correspond to each award? And the answer is, except for the three themed awards that we're looking at now, no, there were no themes or criteria associated with the rest of the awards. Joel was aware of the pecking order of the awards from gold medal on down, but aside from that, it was his choice.
Speaking of titles, this was a good title for this because this was a huge I saw this as a huge painting, and this is one of those paintings you can't quite when I saw it on a computer screen, it looked like it was the size it is now, but when I got there in person, it was quite quite a large picture. Um, but boy, the fruit really does look nice and glassy, nice and wet, juicy like it should. Um, and I love the use of the washes throughout. Uh, really really impressive
So,
painting. You can go to the next one, Jim.
yeah, and I was trying to scroll down through the comments and I didn't do it right. Um,
The droplets, the highlights that are on all the citrus make it look, um, you know, um, uh, like citrus, nice and wet, and uh, I like the colors throughout the citrus, really nicely done, and the scale was impressive on this too.
and I'm going to add one more comment to the themed awards, and that is in some cases, your interpretation of the words was different from what I had in mind.
Yeah,
And and on reflection, I think that's great. I wouldn't have it any other way because I think uh, the conferring of themed awards is a sort of a collaboration between the juror and the painters and the society that defined the awards to start with. And so occasionally things are going to take a different turn, and we're all going to learn from that. So.
I like, me, speak, and this brings us to the next painting. I like the paint. I like painting's connection to history, to art history, And speaking of which, this reminded, when I saw it, it reminded me so much of John Singer Sargent's watercolor gourds, Um, it, it's a close up of some, gourds in a garden, um, and but boy, I really enjoyed the work in this painting. There's a nice uh, there's nice drawing in the palms, but then you look at the fruit and they look uh, the washes are so much looser. There's a nice contrast. I guess what I'm trying to say is between the drawing of the palm fronds and then the looseness of the coconuts. Um, I really thoroughly enjoy that, and I like how it called to mind another painting that I'm very fond of, and that was Sargent's gourd paintings. Good color in the coconuts and combinations of washes in there. I thought were really nicely done. Nice strong contrast with some darks behind them. Really sets the coconuts off really well. Um, and I enjoyed this painting a lot. Thought it was very good. The next one, Jim. Yeah. Um, yeah. Again, when I got a chuckle out of the title when I read it. I thought it was a fun, whimsical painting, and it had a pretty good sense of humor. And then the title adds a curious twist to how I interpret it when I saw the painting. Um, I like all the how the artist modeled the clothing and the old men they're all probably all wrinkled in face, but their clothing is nice and wrinkled too. I thought that was kind of there's nice textures throughout the clothing and uh, I guess there was a play on the wrinkling of the clothing in the old men. So I thought that was kind of cute. It was nicely drawn. There's a good spirit to the whole painting. It was really well done. And that brings us to the gold medal winner, right? Just a beautifully drawn and painted depiction of a tree and in the springtime. Uh, to make those branches and sticks look real again, going back to the thing there without looking, they're just nicely drawn without looking overworked. Just really, again, it takes me back to you know Chinese art, Japanese art, and there's that nice tie into history uh, with it. Just a nice study of a tree, subtle, nice mood to it. Really nicely done. And again, here's another one of those pictures when you see it on the screen, it doesn't quite look like it does in person. The scale, a nicely big work, which I appreciate as well. There's a good mood to this picture, really nicely drawn. Good use of the watercolor media. Uh, Congratulations to the artist. It was it deserved the gold medal.
Joel, Mr. Feng's painting was perhaps one of the most modestly framed in the exhibition. And from talking to him, I think that was intentional on his part. My question is, does the framing of a painting influence your judgment, your jurying?
Absolutely. I think the frame and the mat are all part of the art. Um, and it, uh, I think it's kind of important. Did it influence me in this picture? probably not. Again, I'm trying to look at the artwork, but it does. I think it has an influence on the juror. How the overall package looks. I've seen some pictures uh, that were okay looking, and then you pop a frame around it, and boy, the whole thing just comes to life. And the opposite happened. Where somebody can do a really nice work in the painting, and then um, you know not put as much thought or into the matter, into the frame, and you can't get beyond it. Um, so and then that leads us to the next. Well, how do you properly present a watercolor? And they had sergeants. Uh, they had a watercolor show recently at Boston at MFA, and then it was also at the Brooklyn Museum in New York, and I saw it in Brooklyn. And I like how they presented everything. It had a very simple white clean mat around the work, a gilded frame, and it enhanced the work. So I was looking at what the curators and people at the museums are doing with their works on paper, how they're presenting it, and I think it does help, and I think it can influence the juror in their decision.
Okay, I've got I think two more questions, and I've been saving kind of the epic question for the end here. Um, what makes a great painting, and conversely, what disqualifies a painting in your view?
Um, Again, like I was saying earlier, when I look at a painting, does it convey a mood? Do I feel like, or a moment, a particular moment in time? Um, how compelling it is. Do I get bored with it quick? Do I want to look at it for a long, long time, or do I just want to take a glance at it and just move on to the next picture on the wall? Those paintings, I think, are the most successful and the most uh, compelling to look at. Um, the other part of the question again, Jim, was
Well, what disqualifies a painting for you?
um, if I think I've seen it before. I see a lot of pictures. Uh, I've been involved in the American Watercolor Society show for 12 years now. I've been helping hang. I've been a hanging committee for that. And what disqualifies when I'm a juror on some, if I've seen it before, or if I think I've seen it before, is a real turnoff for me. I want to see the artist. I don't want to see the same paint. I don't want to see the same painting on a circuit over and over again. And that happens. I might see it in a regional show, and then it's in a national show. So to see the same paint, I want to see different work from the artist, and I don't like it when I think I've seen something before.
So you
Um,
mean the same painting entered by the same artist multiple
yes,
times?
that's a big turnoff for me. And that's a disqualifier for me. The other thing, which uh, it's been popping up a lot lately with AWS and our chairpersons on top of it. But we have a rule that very clearly states that if you're going to use photo reference for your paintings, it should be your own photograph. And you're not allowed to use any other reference work. And you'd be surprised how many people find an image online and they use it in a painting, and it's caused problems for us. But that's clearly stated in our prospectus, and they do a very good job of policing paintings. You can do a reverse Google search on paintings, um, uh, and their photo reference, and uh, it you're not allowed to you're not allowed to do that at all. So that's another thing. But we're so inundated by images today. How do you keep track of what where a person got their reference materials? But I think it should be your own original content. But again, that's hard to police. It's hard to to decipher out,
Well, yeah, you're calling to mind an epic story in the history of the Baltimore of this exhibition where one of those unoriginal compositions got a little bit too far, and then it was a real pain in the neck to
It
uh,
is.
yeah.
Yeah.
Um, a philosophy of life question, and this is probably where we'll wrap it up. Um, how has your role as the president of the American Watercolor Society influenced your perspective on the current state of American watercolor in 3 minutes or less?
How does I run by me? I'm trying to.
How has your role as the president of AWS influenced your perspective on the current state of American watercolor?
Oh, geez. Uh, well, these days, I see a lot of different trends that people like. I like to paint and stuff. I really see how choice of subject and you see these patterns in the paintings, And the other thing that's kind of fun to see is the international. I guess it's an international show right now. It's really interesting to see what other countries have been submitting and and uh, and how it influences other painters around the world. So that it's a global now, right? And I really get to see that in our shows. And it's one thing to see it in a catalog, but it's really another thing to see it in person. Um, uh, so that has, I guess that answers your question, right? Uh, uh, the
Yeah,
artwork from around the world is really uh, quite interesting,
yeah, no, you could probably write a thesis on that question too. But Joel, thank you so much. It's been a pleasure from start to finish here through the preliminaries and the selection of the entries and the selection of the awards and the workshop. And now this last hour, I've just enjoyed quite a bit. So I think I speak for the whole society when we say thank you, and we wish you the best. We're all looking forward to our next bus trip up to the next AWS show.
Let me know.
Uh,
I'll try to, if I can make a swing, and I'll try to. Charity, or executive director, will be there, and she's a sweetheart. But yeah, if you let me know, I'll maybe I can meet up with you guys if my schedule permits. But you know, uh, I really enjoyed meeting everybody there. It was a really great workshop. From my vantage point, really enjoyed uh, I thought you got remarkable artists down there. Uh, you, a nice, vibrant organization to boot, and again, I really enjoyed working with Jim, with you, Jim, Eugenie, and everybody else that was involved in the show. It was nice to get to know you, and thank you for thinking of me. It was a pleasure too.
You're welcome. You're welcome. Yeah, and the scrolling is just lighting up with thank yous from everybody. So uh, wonderful, wonderful experience all around.
Thanks.
Yogini, is there anything else we have to do here?
Yeah, I just wanted to mention that this meeting is being recorded, and then it will be available for participants to view again, those who have missed or who wants to watch it again. We will be sending out an email for the YouTube link in a couple of days. So look out for that.
Great.
Okay.
Thank you, Joel. Thank you, Jim.
Thank you.
And we can conclude this presentation today.
Good night, everybody.
Good night.
Bye.